Yo, what's going on, you guys? Today we have 7 American habits that are rude in the UK. I don't know what to expect, but I am interested in watching this video. For those of you who will be asking, I did reach out to her. She did give me the okay to react to some of her videos. So I did reach out to her. That's why I haven't been reacting to none of her videos. I was just waiting for her to answer. And so I did reach out. So we got 7 habits that are rude in the UK that we do here in America. Let's get straight to it. Come on.
I was with was like, we can't just move. We have to ask. And I'm like, you don't have to ask. You just do it, and then it happens. Honestly, I was considered a quiet person in the US. I spent my entire life in the US with people asking me to speak up and to talk louder because they couldn't hear me.
Okay.
I moved to the UK, and within a couple days, people are telling me to be quiet. Hi, and welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm an American who's lived in the UK for over 10
And I love watching her videos simply because, you know, her videos, she's funny, and I love the insights. Since she lived in the US, she moved to the UK, so this is valuable insight, you feel me? So I really do love watching her videos.
And today we're talking about 7 American habits that are considered rude in the UK. I have accumulated many of these examples personally, as well as stories I've heard from fellow American expats who live in the UK and are usually trying to do their best, but are sometimes accidentally being rude or just weird. Now, the first thing on my list of an American thing to do that would be considered rude or not acceptable or just strange in the UK is giving a guest a house tour. So in the States, it's not considered weird. Americans love giving a house tour. A visitor comes over to your house and you want to show them around your house. And I know that
That's like when you get a new spot, that's like the first thing your friends ask you. Yep, I need a tour. That's like so normal. That's like one of the first things, bro. That's crazy. That's something I never thought about. That I thought it was just normal everywhere, but damn, that's crazy.
the audience are initially going to think, well, it's because Americans want to show off their house. And we don't do that here. We don't brag about things like Americans do. And in some ways, that could be true. You could be proud of your house or things that you've done to it, and maybe you do want to show it to somebody for some appreciation. However, there is also another element to this to consider. Now, what I've come across in the UK is that your house is considered a very personal space for the people who live there. And of course, you can have visitors over, and people do have visitors over at times, but it seems to be that British people love meeting out and about. So typically, a British home is going to be smaller than an American home in many instances. So practically, it doesn't always make sense to have people in your space. But equally, in the UK, we have pub culture and restaurants that allow you to sit and enjoy your meal for more than like 20 minutes. So in the UK, meeting friends and meeting people out is much more done than in the US. In the US, we do enjoy our home as a place to have people over for longer periods of time.
Yeah,
and so this reflects back on why Americans love giving a house tour, because in some ways we are trying to make our guests feel at home. And I'm not in any way saying that we're showing them our underwear drawer, but you might show them around and take them around your house in kind of a welcoming kind of way. This isn't done in the UK. So if you have people over, they stick to the rooms that they're allowed in. Most of the house, you like practically board up when someone's coming over, and that's where the visitor is supposed to be. And again, I'm not saying Americans like have guests to their home just wandering every inch of your space, but when they would come to the door, you would welcome them in, and if they haven't been to your home before, you would usually give them some type of tour.
Yeah, you would give them a tour. One thing though, most of the time, most people, they will not let them go into your rooms. Because I feel like Americans, let me not say Americans. For me, you get a house, the whole house is like, you can have a tour. You can have a tour in the whole house, but you're not coming in the room. The room is like the private area, like, that's where you sleep in. That's your private areas. You feel me? So, but outside of that, you get a tour from the whole house, man. You can look at the whole house, but the rooms, the room, like just the room I sleep in. The other rooms, yeah, you could go in, look at it or whatever. But the room I sleep in, nah. You feel me? Nah. That's how it is. Again, that's how I see it for most people. But yeah, it's tours. Yeah, it's a real thing.
My house in the UK would be over in about 30 seconds because, as I said, typically homes in the UK are smaller than in the US. But again, this would be considered weird or rude in the UK because it would mostly be seen as you're trying to show off your home, and that's something that is not done. Gotcha. Now, the next thing on my list actually has to do with American servers within a restaurant and the behavior that would be considered rude, which is not only constantly checking in on you and kind of, in some ways, probably to a British person, bothering you during your meal, but in the US, servers, just as a general rule, this isn't just one person or considered rude or anything, they will give you your check or your bill for the meal basically as soon as they've delivered the food. If not that, like a couple minutes after. That would be considered extremely weird and extremely rude in the UK, as if your server is trying to get rid of you. But the thing is, in America, they kind of are, because they rely on tips, which is an entirely different video, and so much of their wage comes from being able to turn over tables quickly, and this would never fly in the UK. The restaurant experience is totally different, and so if a British family does go to the US, that's something to remember, that the American waiter or waitress is not within the context of American culture being rude by giving you your bill for the meal really soon after they serve you your food. Another American...
Yeah, that depends on the restaurant, right? Some restaurants, they want you to go, like, they want you to go 20 minutes after you're done eating. Like, you shouldn't stay that long, some of them. Because if it's a really busy restaurant, they want you to eat, you could talk a little bit, but leave. But most restaurants, though, most of them, they, like, you could stay as long as you want. You could stay as long as you want because it's not a busy restaurant where they need you to hurry up and go so they can bring other people in. It's not like that. I've never had the experience where a waiter was just like, bro, come on, hurry up and eat, rushing me. My experiences, it'd be like they give you your food. After you done eating, after they see that you done, that's when they'll ask you, would you like the check now? And then you most likely be like, yeah, you can bring the check. So stuff like that. Or if they bring the check before you done eating, they'll be like, I'm not rushing you. It's just right here for whenever you're ready, and stuff like that. So I guess it does depends on the type of restaurant that you go to, I guess.
That is considered rude in the UK has to do with eating as well, and that is to do with what you do with your knife and fork after you finish a meal. So in the UK, the polite thing and general thing you're supposed to do, and people just seem to do as a matter of like not even thinking about it, is you put your utensils together on your plate and it looks something like this. And this is not really done in the US. So there is no official signal for I have finished my food or I am done with my meal, and you kind of just leave your utensils wherever you want to leave them. They could be on the plate, they could be off the plate, they could be making a cross, they could be like just stacked in any weird old way. You basically just throw your utensils down and that means you're done. That is considered rude in the UK in the sense that
That's
it's
crazy.
just the polite thing to do to finish your meal by putting your utensils together on the plate, which is something that I have gotten better at remembering to do, but I still have to sometimes remember to do it naturally, and I see other people around me in the UK just doing this naturally, and I have to remember to gather all of my utensils and put them in this line on the plate to show that I'm done.
That's crazy. I never heard of that before. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, you just put it anywhere. Just put it anywhere. What I like to do, though, I like to stack all the plates, put them in at the edge of the table, so the waiter don't have to work so hard to reach over and grab everything, stuff like that. Just help them out real quick. But yeah, that's amazing though.
My list is Americans being loud. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're not loud. We are loud. Honestly, I was considered a quiet person in the US. I spent my entire life in the US with people asking me to speak up and to talk louder because they couldn't hear me. I moved to the UK, and within a couple days, people are telling me to be quiet.
Wow.
Americans just speak loudly. We just are loud, and it's a trait that is considered relatively rude in the UK because it's infringing on other people's right to enjoy the environment surrounding them. And this is particularly prevalent with Americans on like public transportation in the UK. So if you take the tube in London or a train, you can usually hear the Americans before you can see them. It's just, we're not trying to be rude. We just culturally are loud. And another thing to remember the next time you hear a loud American in the UK is that within the country that we're from, because everybody is loud, you have to speak louder and louder and louder to be heard over the other people. So it doesn't come across as being loud in the US because everybody's being loud. Whereas here in the UK, definitely people are a bit more reserved and a bit more quiet, and suddenly I become the loudest person in the room. The next American habit that's considered rude in the UK, and this is definitely a little bit of a cringy one, is not saying please or thank you or please can you do this, not having those like niceties attached to what you're saying. And this is definitely one of those things I notice when I'm in the US. An example would be if you are in a store and asking where something is. In the UK, you would go up to a person and you would say, "Oh, sorry, can you please tell me where the flower is?" Or you would just have all these different words to say, "Excuse me," "Please, can you help me?" or something like that. In the US, a lot of people, and this does depend on region a little bit, but a lot of people would just go up to the person in the store and they wouldn't have any of these other words. They would just say, "Where's the flower?" And they might say it in a way that to us in the States is still a nice way of saying it. I'm not saying that they're going to be demanding. We could still say it nicely, but we wouldn't include the other words like "excuse me," "please can you help me," "can you do this." We would just kind of go in directly with our question.
I guess that just depends on who it is. But from what I've seen, I mean, it depends. It depends on who it is. It depends on who it is, how you were raised, stuff like that. So, I don't have much to say. It depends on who it is. It depends on who it is.
This may have to do with the American style of direct communication that I talked about in a previous video, but overall, it is just sort of bad manners in the UK and in most countries.
Yeah,
so I'm not.
It's bad manners everywhere. So that's why I say it really depends on who it is. You're supposed to say please if you asking for anything. You're supposed to say thank you when somebody do something for you. You feel me? And it's just manners, good manners. So it's good manners is everywhere. You feel me? So
Americans on this one, but bad manners to not be saying please, not be saying thank you, and things like that. And the next thing on my list that Americans do that can be considered weird in the UK is talking very openly about religion and asking people questions about their religion. And what I mean by this is, in the UK, religion is seen as a personal thing. So you might go to church, you might not, you might go to another religious venue, you might not, but you're not going to expect people that you don't know to ask you about it. In the US, this is a little different. As a country, America is much more religious than the UK, and it is seen as more appropriate to ask a stranger maybe where they go to church, because the assumption is that a lot of people do, especially in certain parts of the US, or you might ask them what religion they are. And again, there's going to be differing experiences of this depending on where you live in America and your age and your social group and things like that.
For sure.
But as a general rule, it's more acceptable in the US to speak about and to ask strangers or acquaintances about religion. In the UK, this is definitely considered rude and not acceptable because religion is viewed as a much more intensely personal and private thing.
Gotcha.
And the final thing on my list has to do with queuing. Of course it does. The American habit that is considered rude in the UK is essentially pushing to the front of things or taking things before you wait your turn or you ask.
Okay.
In the UK, the art of queuing is well known. People are very good at it. People are good at lining up, waiting for things, waiting your turn. The British way is sort of just being like, no, you go first. No, you go first. Or just really having a sense of order when it comes to who gets what next. In America, it is kind of everyone for yourself. We are very bad at lining up. I don't know if you've seen the scene in an iconic American Christmas film called Jingle All the Way, with Arnold Schwarzenegger of all people. But there is a scene when they get a toy into the toy shop that all the parents want, and they essentially trample each other to get to it. This has happened in the US. This is something that I watched and I'm like, yes, this makes sense for America. This is kind of how we operate. And we can even take it from the funny, silly, like physical example of, you know, not being able to line up or like rushing into a toy shop or something like that. But it also tends to extend to other areas as well. So as an example, there was one time when I was on a plane traveling with a British person, and the plane had empty seats in the same like economy section that we booked, so it wasn't like first class empty seats, but there were empty seats, and there were seats that I would have preferred to sit in more than the one that I had, but there weren't that many empty seats. So my American self was like, we're just gonna move. We're just gonna move. We're not gonna ask. We're just gonna go and move to these other seats that are empty. And this has always worked for me. This is just the American way. I see something that's open. I'm like, okay, nobody else is using this, and it's in the same class that I've booked. So I'm just gonna go and sit there. I'm gonna take it. The British person that I was with was like, we can't just move. We have to ask. And I'm like, you don't have to ask. You just do it, and then it happens. But the British way can be seen as much more polite and less rude, to not just go and assume you can do things, but to ask, to again wait your turn. Is it okay if I go and sit in that other seat? Where the American in me was just like, no one else is doing it, so I'm gonna go and do it. Or if you're in a grocery store or something similar, maybe you come up to an item that is running out and you get to it at the same time as another person. In the UK, it's often the polite thing to say, oh no, go ahead, you have it, you take it. An American is like, no, I got here 0.3 seconds before you, I'm taking this, have a nice day. I'm not saying it's the best trait to have. I'm just saying that is what Americans are kind of conditioned to be like. You can call it entitled, or you can call it bold, whatever you want to see it as. That is definitely an American habit that is not considered acceptable and is considered rude in the UK. Now that brings me to the end of this list. I hope you learned something new, or the next time you encounter an American in the UK, you maybe have an understanding of why they do some of the things they do. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Man, this was a great video. Man, I really do be enjoying her videos. They be funny, entertaining, all of that. You know, she have a really great perspective. You know, she lived in the US and now she living in the UK, so the perspective is there. She have great insight. So this was a very, very, very good video, man. Like I said, man, I can't wait to go to the UK to experience some stuff, man. I can't wait to go and actually, you know, I don't know, I just want to go, you know, the history, man, the greenery, everything that you guys have, man. I just love it so much. And yeah, man, again, thank you guys for watching with me. I do appreciate it. We on our way to 10,000 subscribers, so please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.